Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a long while since I posted a video and I apologize for the delay, but I'd been transitioning to some of an important phase in my life, and I would say I'm pretty much well settled now. And I am going to be much more actively focusing on building videos that are going to be helping you prepare for quantitative finance interviews. I thought of making the question videos starting with probability-based questions because those are the questions which are definitely going to be asked on your interview. And I'm going to be along the way sprinkling some of the brain teaser questions as well, which will help you develop the much required muscle to solve these problems or some of these complicated problems which you get on the interviews. And if you get a good response along the line, down the line, we'd probably also do some coding based questions, and let's see how far we can go from there. Anyways, today we're going to be starting with the probability based question, and today's question is who gets more heads. This is an easier version of the problem here, and the reason I say so is because in the next video we're going to be talking about a more complicated version. And but anyways, today we're going to be talking about the situation where you have two players, A and B, and A has n plus 1 fair coins and B has n fair coins. Okay, so A has one more fair coin, and what happens now is both of them toss all the coins simultaneously. So they just probably grab all the coins and they will toss them in the air and see how they fall. And the question asks us, what is the probability that the number of heads A gets is greater than the number of heads B gets? A one important thing to hear to understand and highlight is it's greater, not even equal. Okay, and we're going to be using that. Okay. So if you already have done this question, or if you have a sense that you could do this question, I would highly recommend you to pause the video, take a few minutes to solve this. And if you can solve this, it's great. Directly jump to the answer. Okay. And in case you're not able to solve it, that's perfectly fine. I'll probably just help you build some structure on how to solve this problem, and then we can pick it up from there. All right. So now let's get started. So the trick here is to break the structure of these coins into two parts. So the first part, or the first segment as I call it, is where both these players have equal number of coins. So both of them have n coins. Okay, and the second segment is basically where A has one extra coin. So just one coin. I'm going to be denoting it by 1C. Okay, and B has nothing because B has just n coins. Now, we're going to be focusing on first segment, and the reason is we're going to be leveraging something called a symmetry. Okay, so we don't have to compute exact probabilities. We will just use the power of symmetry to solve this question. But we'll keep one thing in our mind is ultimately we're looking for the situations where the overall number of heads which A gets is more than the overall number of heads B gets. Okay, so we'll first analyze this first segment. Okay, so first segment basically says, hey, we're in a simpler situation where both these players have n coins, and now we're trying to understand what are the situations in which the number of heads A gets is more than the number of heads B in the overall problem. I'll explain you what I mean. So let's say the number of heads. Let me write some short forms here so that to help us solve this question faster. So when I say number of heads of A, I'll denote it like this. That basically means the number of heads A gets and hash HB is basically the number of heads B gets. Okay, and if I would say number of heads A1, that basically means is the number of heads A gets in segment 1. Okay, similarly, a number of heads B1 basically means the number of heads B gets in segment 1. So again, what I mean by segment 1 is when both these players have n coins, which is the equal number of n coins. Okay, so now let's look at the situation. Let us say if we were to have only both players having n coins, again, we're in first segment, and there can be three cases here. Okay, three cases. So case 1, you have the number of heads which A gets in the first segment is greater than the number of heads B gets in the first segment. So what I'm saying is both these players, let's say they just had n coins, and if they toss all these n coins simultaneously, what are the cases in which the number of heads that A gets using these n coins is more than the number of heads B gets using the n coins. Okay, that's case 1. Case 2 would be the number of heads A gets in segment 1 is less than the number of heads B gets in segment 1. Okay, just the opposite. And final case would be when both of them gets the same number of heads. Again, we're living in a world right now where the number of heads, where the number of coins both the players have are equal. Okay, it's a smaller world in this problem, but we're going to be using this to solve this problem. Okay, so now one thing I would like to say, because both these players have n coins, okay, both of them have n coins in this situation, we can easily see due to symmetry that the probability of case 1 is going to be equal to the probability of case 2. Okay, and let us say this is equal to y. Okay, now there's third case where you have the number of heads which A gets in the first segment and the number of heads which B gets in the first segment is the same. Let's say this probability is P. Okay. So now if you look at these 3 cases, you can see that these are exclusive cases. They're mutually exclusive, right? What I mean by mutually exclusive is only one can happen at a time. Okay, and they're also exhaustive. What I mean is, if you consider all these 3 cases, there's no other case that can happen in this situation. Okay, now there's one simple probability property. If you have a bunch of mutually exclusive and exhaustive events, then their probability sum up to 1. And I think it should be intuitive to understand. What I'm saying is that probability of heads, probability of A getting more heads than B in first segment, plus the probability of A getting less heads than B in first segment, plus the probability that both of them get equal number of heads in the first segment is equal to 1, because that's all the possible situations. Okay, and they cannot happen simultaneously. That's why there's addition being applied here. Okay, because they're mutually exclusive. Okay, now let's write this equation. Why am I doing this? Because this is just a simplification or some observations we are seeing in segment 1. Okay, so this basically gives us an equation 2y plus p is equal to 1. Okay, and we're gonna remember this equation as equation 1. Okay. Now you might be thinking, hey Prakash, what are you doing? We're not really looking at the overall picture, which includes A including n plus 1 coins. But I would just say take a moment and think about what have you done so far. We are trying to solve a simpler problem, and there's a connect to the bigger problem. How? Let's see. So if you talk about case 1, let's say case 1 here, okay? When the number of coins which A gets in this first segment is greater than the number of coins which B gets in first segment. Again, A has n coins, B also has n coins. And the number of heads which A gets is more than the number of heads which B gets. What does that tell us? This tells us that number of heads which A would get in the overall problem with n plus 1 coins is also going to be greater. Why? Think about it. So if you are finding it hard to understand, I would say take a moment to pause the video and think about what I just said. If in this smaller problem of first segment, both having n coins, we find a situation where A gets more heads than B, then in the bigger problem also, you would have where A has n plus 1 coins and B has n coins, the number of heads which A would get is going to be greater. The reason, again, why this happens is because actually the problem A, flips n plus 1 coins. What we are doing is we're just taking n coins and analyzing them along with n coins which B has flipped, okay? And using this smaller problem analysis, we are making inferences on the bigger problem. Okay, so I hope this should be clear. If it's not, maybe again pause, try to understand, or maybe rewind from a little before and redo the analysis. Okay, so this is very simple. So what we need to do is we just need to find out the probability of this one, and we have already allocated it as y. Okay, so this is first case, and we need to include this first case in our final answer because it's one of the cases which satisfies our requirement. Okay, now let's talk about second case. The second case was number of heads of A was less than the number of heads of B in the first segment. That is, again, both having n coins, they flip it. A gets less heads than B. Now, is it ever possible that the number of heads A would get with n+1 coins in the situation be greater than B? And it's a question. Is it possible for overall situation, that is A having n+1 coins and B having n coins, is it ever possible? Yes or no? If yes or no, maybe think about it. I'll give you an answer in a moment, but think about it. Is it ever possible? Because it's a very important point to understand this question. All right, so now I hope you must have thought about it. And actually, it's never possible. Because the reason is, think about the corner case here. Let's say A had, let's say A got 3 coins, 3 heads, okay, out of n coins it had, and B got 4 heads. That is the least possible difference you can have, a difference of 1, okay? So A having basically just 1 less than B, okay? So now one may be saying, oh, okay, but A has 1, actually in the bigger problem, A has 1 more coin, and he or she may get an extra head from there. Sure, they can get. So what would be the number of heads in this case? 3 plus 1, and B, of course, would have 4 heads because B just have n coins, okay? So in this case, you have 4, and 4 is not greater than 4. So therefore, you can never have a number of heads can never be greater than number of heads which A gets in the bigger problem with n+1 coins can never be greater than the number of heads which B gets if in the first segment or the smaller problem you have A getting less number of heads than B. Okay, so this is an important case. Again, if you found it hard to understand, I would say go back to the starting of case 2 and try to rework it yourself. And if you're finding it hard, maybe just replay and try to understand this, because this is an important part. Okay, so now we go to the third case. So third case is when the number of heads in the first segment is same for both A and B. Okay, so now in this case, is it possible for A to get more heads than B in overall situation? Again, is it possible? So yes or no? Think about it. Take a moment to think about it. Okay, so now I hope you must have thought about it. The answer is yes, it's possible. Why? Because A has 1 extra coin and +1 coin, and you can get ahead from that. But there's no guarantee, all right? So you gotta, price in the probabilities there. So let's see how we do this. So it is possible. How? Let's see. It is actually possible if you have 2 events. One, that is the number of heads of A, the number of heads of B, are same in the first segment, and you have another event happening that A gets a head on n+1th coin. Okay, so let's compute the probability of this. The probability of this okay, so the probability of this event is actually the probability of A and B getting both equal number of heads in the first segment, and that we already mentioned it as P here. Okay, so we'll go back here. We know this answer. It's P times the probability that A gets heads on the n+1th coin. So it should be heads here. Is actually half. Now you may be saying, hey, why do I multiply here? The reason is because there are 2 events happening together and they're independent. What A gets on the first n coins and B gets and the first n coins is independent of what A gets on the last n+1th coin. That's why I've multiplied this. It's a rule of probability. Okay, so we know the answer is P by 2. Okay, so in this situation also we'll have, again, the number of heads A gets is greater than the number of heads B gets overall. Okay, so this is an equation start 2. So now we have covered all the 3 cases, and this basically concludes our problem. And we have found out in case 1, we get an answer of our interest, which is right here. And in case 2, we also get an answer of interest right here. But we got to add it up all together. And we know we have an equation here, which is this equation. We'll use this. So let's see. So now we know adding equation star and equation double star, we get y plus p by 2. Okay, now what is p by 2? We can use it from equation 1, and that is p is 1 minus 2y over 2 using equation 1. Again, if I go back to equation, I'm just substituting p from here, and p is 1 minus 2y. That's what I do here. So what we get is y plus half minus y, and the answer is half. So there you go. We actually never computed the probability, where does the number of heads of A and B are equal. We just allocated as P, this case 3, which we allocated as Y, this one, we never computed it because, and in fact, we never also computed Y because we just use symmetry here. And in fact, in our answer, just cancels off. So that's the beauty of symmetry that we're using here. So the final answer is 0.5. All right, let me know how many of you got it right in your comments. And if not, I would highly recommend you to try to understand the solution and then maybe give it a few hours, come back to the video, just look at the question and try to solve it yourself, okay? If you like this video, please do like it and share it amongst your friends. In the next video, what we'll be doing is we're going to be talking about a case where you have A getting n plus 2 coins and B having n coins. And this is going to be a little more, I would say, a difficult problem, and going to be a bit more longer video, okay? But I'm very confident that it's going to definitely help you build that, heavy muscle that requires you to solve quantitative questions in the real interview. All right, thank you very much for listening in, and I hope you liked it, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.